it's just around the corner.
Welcome to podcasten Udstødt, this fellowship podcast from Denmark. And actually now I'm sitting with some fellow XJWs from Scandinavia. We are all gathered. We are representatives from Norway, Jan Frode Nilsen, Sweden, Jenny. How do you pronounce your last name?
Jenny Küttim.
Jenny Küttim.
Küttim, yes.
But in English, Jenny Küttim.
Yes, or in Sweden, I actually have a star name inside the Jehovah's Witnesses. So they actually just call me Jenny K.
Ooh, that's truly a star name. Okay, Jenny K. and Jan Frode. I am sure you heard about Jan Frode Nilsen, or as it's probably pronounced in USA, Jan Frode.
Jan. Just say Jan, because then I won't have to do the r.
Yeah.
So I'm just Jan, actually.
Okay, it's Jan. It's funny because also Jan can be a female name in the United States. But we don't talk about that. We talk about the XJW community. We talk about the court. Or do we talk about the court 2025, Jan? Because you said there was something you were not allowed to talk about.
Yeah, I'm a witness tomorrow. So I'm going in tomorrow at 10:40. So I can't really speak about what has happened the first week, because I'm not supposed to deal with that. I'm supposed to go into court with a clear mind. So I can't talk about what has happened the first week inside of the court, but I can talk about the whole process until that, and the written arguments ahead of court I can talk about. But
and maybe tomorrow, after you have been witness at stand, then we might talk about it.
Yeah, if there's something left of me tomorrow, then,
okay, yeah, of course.
Then I'm free to talk about anything. Because the whole idea is that when you go into court, you're supposed to not actually... You're supposed to go in there and not be... Your testimony is not to be influenced by the other stuff that has happened the previous days. So that's kind of a legal principle. So, I'm trying to respect it.
We'll see. So we don't mention the war. We don't mention the last week. There's a lot of stuff where you can read about it in, for example, avoidjw.com. And there's a lot of YouTubers talking about this. So let's just talk about the way to here from last year, what happened maybe that you're allowed to. And Jenny, let's talk a little about from Sweden. Mm-hmm. Are there something similar happening in Sweden that might going the way as in Norway?
So let me present myself.
Of course, sorry.
So my name is Jenny, and I'm born and raised Jehovah's Witness. I left when I was 12. I was not baptized. So I left the organization and had a hard time as everybody else. And I became a journalist, investigative journalist. So I ran very fast out of this world and was so attracted to facts and investigations and never wanted to be fooled again, right? But then in 2017, somebody, I don't know who, put 100 elder letters from Sweden, the Swedish translation of the elder letters, regarding sexual abuse of children on my front door, in front of my front door.
Only from Sweden?
Only from Sweden. 100 over 3 decades. So somebody was mocking me, right? I was this high-profile investigative journalist, and somebody told me to go back and dig in my past. So I went back into the Jehovah's Witness community and did investigations. So I went down to Australian Royal Commission in 2017. And since then, I've been doing investigation inside Sweden for 2 years. And in 2022, I published a book. That's why I'm Jenny K with the organization.
Sounds interesting. But in all the years, may I ask, how did you leave Jehovah's Witnesses? Were you shunned this fellowship?
No, I left by myself. That's a long story.
Okay.
It's in my book called Sanningsbärarna, Truth Barriers. And but basically, I had a dysfunctional family. I had to leave to survive. And when I left, I realized that it was not my father's abuse or it was all a part of the system. So when we left, the elders were still controlling my mother in the same way as we were controlled by our father. So that was easy for me to leave then when I saw the double moral standards. But before that, I was like the true believer, really much true believer. So I became a publisher, when I was 6 years old, and I knocked 30 hours a month doors. So I was a heavy recruiter, So, but anyways, since 2017, I've been following Jehovah's Witnesses. And by that time in Sweden, they did not have state fundings. Because until 2019, the Jehovah's Witnesses were actually considered a cult in Sweden. So they were banned, they did not get any state funds. But what I then discovered when I went back was that they had been doing this litigation process toward the Swedish government for 10 years. Over 10 years, arguing that they needed to have state funds, that they were discriminated, as much as the same arguments they are now putting forward in Norway. But the thing was that in 2019, the Swedish government was so fed up about the Jehovah's Witnesses that they kind of let them win. So by 2019, they have been state funded in Sweden. And they actually also get, what do you say, skadestånd?
Yeah.
Help me out.
They got back the funding, and they also got kind of what you call it, damage, extra money for damages.
Damages for what?
Because they didn't get
They
money.
were discriminated.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they got an extra.
According to themselves.
Yeah, but so they got a kind of a good payout, but it's not in Sweden. It's not the same big amounts of money as it is in Norway. It's just a fraction every year.
Yes, the fraction.
Yeah, because in Norway it's like 17 million Norwegian crowns. I think it's in Sweden it's just a few million, a couple of them. So it's not the same amount of money, but the principle is the same. So they use it in court against us. In the last round, they were very specific to talk about how in Sweden they had to turn around and even pay damages for what they did. Yeah, damages.
Yeah.
So it was a.
So that means if, God forbid, but if Watchtower wins this time, the state of Norway have to pay back 3 years of damages of money.
The claim in court is to get payment for all the years they lost. So now we're talking about 3 years now, so we're at 60 million Norwegian crowns. That's you can say 5-6 million euros, and also there's a lot of legal fees. So last round they were ordered to pay the state's fees and their own expenses, and that was around 6 million kroner, so 500,000-600,000 euros, and also this round's fees. So we're probably talking, when this round is ended, we're talking about maybe 8 million euros, 7-8 million euros. And that's the cash they want right now. But of course, it's the future cash for every year ahead. So there's a lot of money involved. You could easily reach 10 million euros.
Have a journalist ever asked the big question, or maybe in the court, but how come that it's so important for you when you shouldn't be part of the world led by Satan? But you're interested in the money, but it doesn't make sense, A lot of people are asking that question.
Yeah, you could ask them, but Watchtower would never admit that it is about the money. They will say that it's about their right to freedom and religion and not be discriminated. They will never say that it is about money, so you'll never get... You can't ask that question, but they will never accept
No, but I would last year. I heard in the courthouse that they mentioned the amount and they wanted that amount back and so on.
Yeah.
So they do mention it, so it is important for them.
Yeah, of course, it is a part of the case file and the demand in the case file. That's the money, but they will never accept publicly that the money is what they are after in like an interview. Then they will always say that it's about their religious freedom and not to be discriminated.
Okay. Jan, up to now, we don't have to repeat, you're not allowed to talk about the last week, but up till from last time to this, have been more media, the public attention on this case, or is it the same?
been calm, actually, quiet and nice, comforting.
For you.
So you had the verdict that came in March, and then there was these reactions, and then it kind of went silent. Wasn't really much to discuss about, and we could all move on with our lives. That's kind of what we want. And I kind of put it all away. It's not like I sit every month and want to make a story. I want to move on with my life and think about other things. So it's been quiet and it's been calm, and they lost and they had to deal with it, and they don't get funded in Norway, and it's they who have to pull it back for the appeal. But of course, now that the case is here, then it comes up in the media again.
So now it's a hot subject. Maybe there are most journalists interested. I know in Denmark there are a lot of journalists interested in what's going on now.
Yeah, you can say that the process now has gone on over and over again. So it's not the same. It's a bit less focused than it was last year, because that was the first time the case was heard full. So it was a bit more, and last year also Jehovah's Witnesses was sending in their letters and inviting us to a bit of a media fight over several weeks with the articles back and forth. So we played like this table tennis game that created, so I think I made a file, I think I had 8 or 9 or maybe 10 written, my personal written, what you call it, like testimonies or written arguments published in newspapers last year. So we had a long period with lots of public, so I really got to write lots of written opinions. So, and this year it hasn't been like that.
No.
Because they have a different tactic this year, I think, and that's just to stay away from media. And because they stay away from media, it doesn't push us out, because every time they go into media, I can't sleep before I have written something. So we get the ball. So you can't really do that when they are not playing with us.
Of course.
So, but for me, it's been nice to just we can do this in court, and we don't have to. I don't have to write and argue with them, because we have the verdict in our favor.
The verdict, yes.
So we don't really need to argue more. So it's been kind of more quiet, but there are journalists in the hall, and there's been several articles, but it's not like the main news every day. Just because we are a small minority, and we just have to accept that most people don't really care about this small religion.
It's so true, isn't it?
We can't go on fighting for attention either. But there has been some, and there was discussion on the Norwegian media, the daily debate channel on Wednesday on TV and radio, which is a big thing. They had a section on it, and there's a few newspapers that's been making articles every day, but that's Christian newspapers focused on religion. They are very looking into it.
Yeah.
But the mainstream news are more into
mainstream
we
stuff.
don't have this.
But it's so funny you say it, because when we came out of Jehovah's Witnesses, we had we thought that, because that's what Watchtower is telling, that everybody knows Jehovah's Witnesses. The good news is all over the world. When you come out, nobody cares. What? You don't celebrate birthday, and okay, have another beer. They don't care. They don't know Jehovah's Witnesses really.
Yeah, because people think that they are so, not dangerous at all. But I do think that Jehovah's Witnesses care. It's a main subject, even though in Sweden, because when the Jehovah's Witnesses got the state funding in Sweden, the law changed. So the government went back and changed the law to actually bring in democratic principles. So from January this year, like last month, all religions in Sweden lost their fundings. So all the religions in Sweden now have to be tried according to democratic policies. So Jehovah's Witnesses, even though they think they are king of everything, they bringing out a new policy in Sweden. So it's very important for a journalist actually to understand why they are litigating. And so Jehovah's Witnesses, I think they do it because if they are a religious community, nobody can call them a cult, right? So that's a big branding. of course, they will do it for the money. But in Sweden, the state funding is also, it's a thing that if you are a religious community, people can give you money without paying taxes and stuff like that. And they will lose a lot of money in other subcultures connected to their being a recognized religious minority. So it's very important. And you also know that they changed the rules nowadays since last March. And they say that youths will not be thrown out from the community, even though they are. So this last year I've been following a girl. She's only 15 years old. So that's the next story coming out. So that's also why I'm Jenny K.
Jenny K. But Jenny, let's you mentioned something before. Please enlighten me.
Yeah.
Not that I disagree, but can you put some words about when you say that Jehovah's Witnesses are dangerous cults?
Yeah.
But they are so nice. Because when you see Jehovah's Witnesses everywhere, they're so good neighbors, they're taking care of everything. Yep. Their children are nice, they're clean, everything's so good. And how can they be a dangerous cult?
Well, so obviously everybody leaving Jehovah's Witness would say they are. Over these 5 years now, 6 years, I met maybe 200 apostates or former Jehovah's Witnesses. All of them bear witness to some form of trauma. And it can vary from not be able to think, not to be able to learn the society's rules when they come out. And they will be children out there with no relationships because they were thrown out by their parents. And all of them I've been following ends up in very disturbing situations where they're getting abused inside of our culture because they don't know how to put any boundaries. And I think maybe all of them, 200, have some time been depressed. And some of them don't even get a job. They never get inside our society because they live in the middle of life when they're like 50. They don't have any education. And most of them are still afraid, right? And also they end up in the healthcare system in Sweden or in Norway or in Denmark, and nobody understands them. Nobody even reflects that they're leaving a cult. So they don't get the right attention. They get on pills, even though most of them just need trauma therapy. But not only the people leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses. During these 6 years, I also have a lot of PMOs, as we call them, physically in, mentally out. They are suffering inside. And most of my sources, I wanted to establish the elders' letters' authenticity, was elders. So a lot of my people that I'm following inside, who are still inside, they are elder PMOs, okay? So they are breaking down because they want to go to the police if a child is getting abused, but they're not allowed to. So this organization is probably on the verge of something new. I think they will not contain in this structure for much longer. Sorry, long run.
No, it's good. I have to talk with you later, maybe online, whatever. So you also could tell a little bit about your own story. But it's very interesting. Jan, let me ask you. This is the third time tomorrow that you're standing, giving your testimony.
Yeah.
Is tomorrow just another day at the office? Now it's so easy. Okay, let me just say it away. Or is it harder or easier? How do you feel?
The practical thing about the way I feel comfortable about what's going to happen and how to do with it gets easier for every time because I know how to deal with it. And also for every time it's been more friends here. The first time I was almost alone. I had my girlfriend, but then the evening before I was alone and I found a hotel and I just went to bed alone and didn't really know what to expect. And then I went into the courthouse and it was I maybe thought it was just a small hall and maybe no people coming, and then I met this wave of Jehovah's Witnesses in there filling up the room. There were elders I knew, there were circuit overseers. So back then I was kind of on the away field and alone, and then I took the train. Basically, right after my testimony, I just walked down to the train, and I had to take the train for 3 hours alone, and I kind of got the real mental breakdown on the train. So I have learned, and last year it was better. There was more people around me. I was more prepared. I had my girlfriend there. I felt better, but it's not like it's not like a walk in the park. What's hard is that I mostly moved on with my life. So for like 10 months, I have put all this in a box, and I have closed the door. And even though I think about it and I have some discussions and I pull it out, I don't mentally bring everything up anymore. So for like 10 months, I've established to have this safe distance to it all, and then I focus on other aspects of my life, and then it becomes like a faded memory. But when I go into this with the preparations, with going through what I'm about to say over and over in my head, I want it to be real, and I want to give 100% in the courtroom, and I want to be honest, and I don't want to do it halfway. And because I do that, I also pull back all the trauma. I let that come back in my head. So it's not healthy at all, but it's kind of what I have to do. I can't do it halfway. So even though I've done it before, it really hurts me, kind of. And I'm going to have to spend the next week putting it back in that box again and getting the distance that I had 2 months ago. So it's
emotional, very, very hard.
Yeah, and I kind of damage myself by doing it, but I kind of have to do it too. So it's.
Is it worth it, Jan? Is it worth it?
It's worth it. I have to do it. I can't. There's no option. I can't. If I didn't do it, then that would hurt me too, because I would feel like I failed. So, but there's no joy in it for me, and there's not. And I think a lot of people maybe misunderstand this because they think that he's done so much and he can win this, and he can go in there and kind of be something important. But I don't have that feeling at all. It's just like I wrote in my post the other day, that it's just a walk of sorrow and pain. And so yeah,
so you're not on a revenge quest. It's not for you if you want to win over Watchtower and become a big hero.
It's more like what you say. It's more about just, this is the card I got on my hand, and I play the cards I have, and I deal with it, and I complete my journey. I'm not gonna pull out halfway, and it is what it is. But there's no pleasure in it, and it's not like I'm gonna celebrate any of it.
No.
But it is what it is.
I think you should. I think you should celebrate it, have a little party, whatever. We all deal with this in different manners, okay? And I respect totally what you're doing and what you're saying here. But, for example, you, Jenny.
Yes.
Are you on a quest? Are you... When you are Watchtower's enemy #1 in Sweden.
I don't know if they will agree,
so.
but...
But you're investigating journalists,
Yes.
and you can damage them a lot.
Yes.
Why do you do it?
So, basically, I had a soul-searching period. Could I do this story? I'm an investigative journalist. Could I actually do this story, or am I biased, right?
Wow.
So would that turn me into an activist? And that would be like, I'm not an activist. It's very important for me to be a journalist. So my quest was, like my tool to get out of the Jehovah's Witnesses and the brainwashing was to become a journalist, to go to the facts, to discover its truth, to never be fooled, right? So I didn't really want to be an activist. And in Sweden, that's a no-no. In the United States, you can be an activist and a journalist in the same body. Mm-hmm. But in Sweden, no. You lose your confidence, like your credibility, and that's the only thing you have. So I was really soul-searching, but then I ended up saying I needed to do this story. But then I was like, I can only do the investigation. But no, can I? I need to also tell my story. Otherwise, I become biased. Mm. So I needed to be very truthful about my own background. And also I chose to do that because I had written diary my entire life. And it was so hard for me to get in contact with the children still inside. So I wanted to have the children's perspective. So I wrote about my life. And then like the journalism and the letters and what I discovered about the 2 witness rules, for example. And I followed all of these cases. So I needed to be very transparent just because they could not hit me back then. Because if I had done this, just as an investigation, you know, the Watchtower would be like, she's biased, she grew up here, we have her records, you know, we know everything about this girl. So I needed to be very transparent. Why? To save people, basically. And so I chose to do a book instead of TV. I usually do TV because a book everybody can find. And I told all the media in all the press releases, please share this book. When you've read it, please leave it on the subway. Please leave it somewhere. Please leave it, give it to your social workers or the police station. Give this book away. We need to spread how this organization is working. And in a couple of months, I will distribute 2,000 books. I've taken them off the shelves just to bring them out to social services, to the healthcare, to the police stations, because they need to know how to meet apostates when they leave.
The Children of Jehovah's Witnesses, very, very important. Is that book in English also?
No, soon.
Okay, soon in English. Okay, look up for Miss Jenny K. Okay. Now we need to, I'm sorry, Jan, I know you want to talk at least 2 hours more, but we have to. John, I respect you so much, and I respect also your human view on it, because this is not just not all hero wears capes kind of things. I know I'm very proud of knowing you, and I think you should have all the credit in the world, but you're very, very humble, and I think it's the right approach. Also about Jan wrote to me, remember, Frank, if you want to talk with some of the ex-Jehovah's Witnesses who's going to witness tomorrow, please take care of their mental place, the state. And it's very, very important that you say that.
Yeah. I also think it's important for people out there who say, who think that they can just do something about stuff like, and it's like, an instant, like I can just change everything with a statement, or I want to become an activist, and then they think they can just go in there and do something quickly and it's all going to change. And it's not like that. It's a really heavy burden and it takes lots of time. I'm close to 10 years now from the first time I logged on with an anonymous account and started my journey out here, and it takes a lot of time, and you can't just fix everything, and even after 10 years it might just be a little dent in Watchtower's tower. That's how it is, and you just have to deal with it. If you go in and think that you're gonna crash everything down just by going in there, it's not that easy. No. It takes.
But as you mentioned before, it's not like you would choose. I almost sounds like an elder. It's like Moses and Aaron. I'm not a big talker. You are sensitive. It sounds like you're some kind of that guy that you were somehow chosen to be that kind of guy that you didn't want this job, but okay, it's a dirty job, but somebody has to do it.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the key to this kind of long-term thing is that it's always just been, I'm just this guy trying to rebuild my life and move on and find other things to focus on, but still do what I have to do. I've never started like a channel or anything, or trying to rebuild some kind of trademark. I actually just want to be left alone in peace with my life and my children and move on. But at the same time, I get this fire in me when I read something, or especially against this case and the bureaucracy, and when I see stuff that I feel so often I've read something or a statement, and I'm like this. Someone has to write a letter. Someone has to counter this. Someone has to say something, and then 15 minutes later, I'm like, it should be me. I just have to do it. And it's not like because I feel that I'm the best person to do it. It's because I can't sleep before I have gotten it out of my system. And if I read something, I feel that this needs a counter argument. It needs a letter to the government. And the only way for me to sleep that night is to write it down and send it. And then I can sleep. So it's actually kind of, all of this is a result of me not being able to sleep before I get it out of the system. So it's probably some kind of, doctors probably have a word for it and some medicine against it. But it is what it is.
My thoughts, Jenny, maybe you can give me right about this. When I see this man, when the Watchtower is describing apostates, they're evil, they want to gather their own flock, and they are telling lies, and they are aggressive, and so on. That is so funny, because when you see this man, he's just the opposite. I think it's a thorn in the eye of the Watchtower. But you seems a little bit more fierce, Jenny. Let you have the last fierce word. Does this, I understand what you say about be careful not taking too much control of your life, because you are much more than just a former Jehovah's Witnesses. So how do you cope with when it's up to here?
Well, a friend of mine, so a lot of people reach out, right? Like for 1 year after the book, it was every day. Now it's still like once a week. And it's very interesting for, young students. They want to do all their work on Jehovah's Witnesses. So I have been teaching, 300 students about Jehovah's Witnesses. So a lot of people are reaching out. And I occasionally do my posts, but mostly I'm a talking head, in the media, whenever it's something about Jehovah's Witnesses or abuse inside the community. But my friend told me, she was like, it's also okay to say no. It's also okay to just step back, take your breath. You will come around. You will do when you need to do something, So that was very good for me to hear, because sometimes, and I can feel that you feel it, that it's, if nobody else is doing it, I'm doing it, I'm doing it. It needs to be said,
Yeah, somebody has to do it.
But, we are not this organization. They are very well-paid lawyers. They educate lawyers in Sweden just for litigations. And we are doing this on our spare time. We are not even getting anything for it. So we need to be good towards each other. And I was so surprised today to meet a lot of apostates, I don't know, XJWs, or just like a crowd. It was so many voices and so many civilian courage people that were putting themselves up there to get, to get new legislations in the United States and everything. I've never heard about these people. No. I've never seen them on forum. But they are doing what they can in their own communities, because they are so disturbed about what happened to them and the control of this organization all over the world. And
that's so. Let's end with this, because I'm going there. Maybe you are welcome very much too, because they're sitting very close here in a Thai restaurant, my way, whatever. But maybe you're not going because you have to relax before tomorrow.
I have some preparation to do first, but I might join people later. But right now I need some preparation for tomorrow. Yeah.
And no too much drink.
No beer. I'm gonna. These last days I've been waking up at 5, 6 every morning and can't sleep anymore. So I need to. It's gonna be a slow evening. And
okay, not for me.
Prioritize.
I'm get drunk. Bye. Thank you very much for being here, Jenny. I'll talk to you later also, and maybe tomorrow if you are up to it.
Yeah, I will try to do it some short. I'll drive home tomorrow evening with my daughter, but I have some time before that. But we'll see how my state.
We'll see how your state of mind is. Okay, thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.